Well everybody, let's find out how bad of an idea this was. Okay, so this video is just going to be sort of a recap where I go over everything I've done to this thing in the previous 14 or so videos and was it worth it? To determine if it's worth it, I'm going to go through some ZR2s that I have found for sale and I'm going to kind of compare what did those cost versus what's been done to them and did I get completely screwed on this. I think the short answer right now is maybe not. I would say the cheeriest way of looking at it is that I did okay. You could certainly look at it and say that I totally just screwed myself over. I think the truth is somewhere in the middle, like yeah, I could have done better if I looked a little harder, but taking myself back to the time I bought this, it was already winter, it was already snowing. I wanted something that I could drive through the winter and then fix up this year and have it even better for this coming winter, and I think I've succeeded in that. If I would have been willing to travel a little farther out of town or spend a little more money, I could have got something better. But just based on when I was ready to buy, what was available within like a reasonable distance of home, which I would have considered like 50 miles, I think I did okay. So first off, let's go over what I have spent. And I have this all saved in my computer as the Blazer spreadsheet of shame. And as you can see, bottom line, I have spent, I don't know why I can't see it on here. There we go. So bottom line, I have now spent $6,266.62 on this Blazer. Not a superstitious man, but it's kind of funny how there's a 666 in there. So yeah, I was pretty much halfway there, or even more than halfway there, after just buying it, getting it registered, and putting on the exhaust. So everything since then has just basically doubled that first batch, and the majority of that is related to the rear differential and brakes and everything, which was not something I'd planned on doing this year. It was just something that came up. So looking at the list, there's a lot. And it's funny because this only goes back about 1 year, not even a year, and I can look at everything at the beginning and be like, oh yeah, I did that. Now here's another list I made where I just kind of wrote down everything that I actually did, because some of them didn't require spending money, it was just work that needed to be done. So here's that list, and again, you can see it was a lot of stuff. As far as comparables go, there was a period over the summer when I would occasionally be looking on Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist looking for somebody with a parts car that I could get a headliner from, or I also want to get the different wheels that was available this year, the more squared off wheels. So I was kind of looking all summer for those, and there were some pretty good deals on ZR2s that came up where I was like, man, I really screwed up. I should have waited till the summer, but I don't know what's happening, if it's just like now that it's cooling off, not as many people are selling cars, or if it's something to do with the market, but there isn't as much out right now. Here's just a few things that have happened lately. Biggest ZR2 news is that Cars and Bids just sold a total cream puff, a beautiful one with only 24,000 miles on it, but it sold for $17,500, which is just unreal. And yeah, there's no way this car will ever be as nice as this one. But just to show what the upper end is that people are not asking but getting for these cars now. I think I maybe wasn't so crazy last year when I predicted that they were at their bottom and they were going to start coming up. I think these are the first signs that people are starting to pay attention to these. If you remember, I pointed one out a year ago where they were asking crazy money for it. Well, that one is still for sale if you want it. It's now up to almost 23 grand and it doesn't have low miles. So I don't know what they're thinking. They're not going to get anywhere close to that, I would hope. But available locally, here's the first one that popped up, and this was 3 grand, which is what they were asking for this, but I talked them down to 2. I didn't even really have to talk them down, I just mentioned the word 2, and they're like, yes, please, take it. So for 3,000, there's this one. It has about the same miles, about the same options. It has a lot of body damage, which also this one does, but it also is red. I was trying to avoid a red car because at the time in our driveway, we had my stepson's car who was red, my wife's RAV4, which was red, my dad's Nissan Leaf that we drive as a second vehicle, that was red. My Abarth 500 has a purple wrap on it right now, but when the wrap comes off in the next year or two, it's red. So I just didn't want another red car in the driveway. Also, being a winter car, I thought black on black would be a good choice. It might just do a better job of just absorbing heat and staying warm. Here's another one in that 3,000 range. I really would have no complaints about it. It actually looks really good, but it isn't a ZR2, and I don't need the ZR2, but it was cool. I just wanted to get one. So this is lacking that, but it's similar price, higher miles, but it would have been a good buy. Then there's this one that's got a lift. It's just a body lift, and it's got 35s instead of 31s for wheels. Kind of beat up, but you know, similar mileage, similar everything else. Like this probably would have been a good buy. 38 wouldn't have been ridiculously out of my price range or anything. I probably could have swung that. I didn't really want a lifted one with aftermarket wheels and tires, but it wouldn't have been a bad one. Here was another one that came up, but again, this is another one. It's got aftermarket wheels, which I really didn't want. Quite a bit of rust damage, and it isn't really running right. Yeah, it's got a bad battery. I assume most of these were going to need the suspension work and brake work that I did, just because all of these have over 100,000 miles, and I don't know when the last time was that anything was done to them. Now here's a really nice clean one. This is kind of a drive from me, and the price was probably a little out of my price range, but in retrospect, I've now spent that on this. But this one's really clean, and if I had that, I wouldn't have had to probably do any work. Now here's a real beater. And honestly, it doesn't look that much worse than this one. A lot of rust, and this one has some transmission issues, so it would need a lot of work, but I mean, this one needed a lot of work. If this one were closer, I'd probably go get it as a parts car. And that was all Facebook Marketplace. I did check Auto Trader and there was nothing nearby, and I checked a few other sites and there was nothing nearby. It's kind of slim pickings. Like if I knew I wanted this vehicle and I did what I did with the Abarth and just spent a year watching every site every day until the perfect one came up and I jumped on it, like I could have got a better deal on this, but just kind of what's available at the time, I could have done worse, but I could have done better. So wrapping things up here, Blazer Series, last I checked, has netted me almost $100. So, you know, maybe I did okay. No, but seriously, I knew what I was getting into. I like working on cars. I bought something that needed some work. I was happy to do the work, and this is the result. Probably not going to be any more videos for a little while on it, because at this point now, I'm just driving it. I had the brakes bled, as I mentioned I was going to do in the previous episode, and I couldn't believe they charged me $200 for that, but they were messing with it for an hour. They said there was a lot of air, and there was no way I was going to get it out without a scan tool and a second person. It was just not going to happen. So $200 was double what I was expecting to pay, but it's done. The brakes work awesome now. No complaints. The thing just starts up and runs and drives and does everything I need it to do. So I guess I'm going to cut this one off here, and this is going to be the end of the Blazer videos for a little while. If you watched the whole series so far, thank you. I appreciate it. I've enjoyed everybody's comments and, you know, people talking about their own Blazer experiences. To all the people saying you should come help me with mine, no, I'm not going to go work on anybody else's Blazer. I am blazered out right now, but I appreciate all the support. I appreciate everybody watching and following along, and I'm going to continue to make videos. I always have, always will. This was just kind of a little off-ramp to the side. So if you're here for just Blazer content, I'm sorry, it's probably going to be it for a little while, but if you want to see me tinker with other things and make dick jokes, I'll be here for y'all. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one. All right, everyone, let's figure out how much I screwed myself over. Well, everybody, let's find out how bad of an idea this was. Well, everybody, let's see how badly I f***ed myself.